Have you ever tried to go one single hour without using a number? Try it. You can't check the time, you can't check your battery percentage, you can't even buy a coffee because you can't pay a specific price. Numbers are the invisible skeleton of our entire reality. But here's the strange thing. They aren't real. You can't trip over a number 4 on the sidewalk. You can't hold a -10 in your hand. So where did they come from? Did we discover them, like fire? Or did we invent them, like the wheel? The answer takes us back tens of thousands of years, to a time before cities, before writing, and before the number 1 even had a name. Welcome to Simple Things Surprising Histories. Today, we're counting down the history of, well, counting. To find the very first evidence of humans using numbers, we have to travel back about 44,000 years to a cave in the Lebombo Mountains near modern-day Eswatini in South Africa. In the 1970s, archaeologists found a small broken piece of bone, specifically the fibula of a baboon. But this wasn't just a leftover meal. Carved into the side were 29 distinct notches. This is the Lebombo Bone. It is widely considered the oldest mathematical artifact in the world. Now, pause for a second. Was this early human doing math? Not exactly. They were tallying. This is the difference between counting and numbers. Tallying is physical. 1 notch for 1 day, or 1 notch for 1 animal. It's a one-to-one connection. If you have 5 sheep, you make 5 cuts. You don't need the abstract word 5 to do that. Thousands of years later, another famous artifact appeared in the Congo, the Ishango Bone. It has clusters of notches that some scientists believe track lunar cycles or even prime numbers. For tens of thousands of years, this was the limits of human genius, the tally mark. It was simple, it worked, but you couldn't build a civilization with it. For that, we needed to stop cutting bones and start playing with clay. Fast forward to about 4000 BC in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. Humans had stopped wandering and started farming, and farming created a new problem: surplus. If you are a farmer in ancient Sumer and you want to trade your grain for my sheep, we can't just trust each other's memory. We need a receipt. Before they invented writing, the Sumerians invented a brilliant system using small clay objects called tokens. A cone shape might represent a small measure of grain. A sphere might represent a large measure. If I owed you 5 jars of oil, I'd give you 5 specific tokens. We would seal them inside a hollow clay ball, like a prehistoric envelope, so no one could tamper with the deal. But then, someone had a lazy and brilliant idea. Instead of making 5 separate tokens, why not just draw a picture of the token on the outside of the clay envelope? This was the spark. Over time, the pictures became symbols. We stopped needing the physical tokens entirely. We separated the quantity from the object. Suddenly, 5 wasn't just 5 sheep or 5 jars. 5 became a concept of its own. This was the birth of abstract numbers. Once we had abstract numbers, things moved fast. By 3000 BC, the ancient Egyptians were using hieroglyphs to manage a massive empire. They had a stroke for 1, a cattle hobble for 10, a coiled rope for 100, and my personal favorite, a picture of a surprised man throwing his hands up to represent 1 million. They used these numbers to engineer the pyramids with terrifying precision. Meanwhile, back in Mesopotamia, the Sumerians and Babylonians developed a number system based on the number 60. It sounds random to us today. We use a base 10 system because we have 10 fingers, but a base 60 system is actually incredibly useful because you can divide 60 by 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 evenly. And the wildest part? You're still using their math right now. Look at a clock. Why are there 60 seconds in a minute? Why are there 60 minutes in an hour? Why is a circle 360 degrees? That is the direct legacy of ancient Sumerian math from 5,000 years ago. We are literally counting time using the ghosts of ancient Babylon. But even with all this progress, there was a massive hole in the system. If I have 3 sheep and you take 3 away, what do I have? I have nothing. But for thousands of years, nothing didn't have a number. It was just empty space. The Babylonians used a placeholder, like a space in a sentence, but the true number 0 wasn't fully born until around the 5th century AD in India. Mathematicians, like Brahmagupta, defined 0 not just as nothing, but as a number that you could add, subtract, and multiply. They gave it a symbol, a simple dot, which eventually became the circle we use today. This was the final piece of the puzzle. Without 0, you can't have calculus, you can't have physics, and you certainly can't have computers. We started with scratching lines on a baboon bone to count the days. We ended up with a system so powerful we can use it to weigh the stars and count the atoms in a grain of sand. Numbers aren't just tools for homework or taxes. They're the language we invented to speak to the universe. Thanks for watching Simple Things. If you enjoyed this journey, do the math for us. Click that 1 like button, leave 1 comment, and subscribe to see infinite stories coming your way. See you next time.